Ohio State is in the mix to get a commitment from four-star running back Jordon Davison.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everyone, to a Feel-Good Friday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Here on Friday, May 10th in the year 2024, I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. During today's episode, Locked On's recruiting analyst Brian Smith will be back with us once again. We dive into the recruitments of Jordon Davison, Malik Autry, and Xavier Tiller. All three are really talented. A fourth player finds his way inside this conversation. It's a great way to end the week with a little recruiting, a little Buckeye news that you need and love. Let's not waste any time and bring Brian in. And as you welcome in Brian Smith, I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. One thing I love when Brian is on here is to talk about guys that shorten or shrink their recruitment list to 5 or 4 or 8 or 7 schools to kind of get Brian's thoughts about their recruitment. And Jordon Davison, who is a 4-star running back, one of the top 10 backs in the current recruiting class of 2025. He just shrunk his recruiting down to 4 schools: Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, and Oregon. All 4 are really good programs. All 4 have something that can provide him and help him get to the next level. And Davidson's a guy that I think Ohio State's not only they have a good shot to get a commitment from Davidson, but I think they have the right spot and the right coach and Coach Locklyn to develop him into being a good NFL prospect down the road. This is assuming he's playing football in Columbus in the future.
He's an all-around running back and plays at Mater Dei. I watched his film again before we came on the show. Good vision, stays low, quick feet, has power. He's a 3-down running back that you would want in today's game. It doesn't matter if you're old school football or if you're running 4 wide with 1 running back. Davison can play in that role. Very, very hard to find guys like that have been trained like he has at Mater Dei.
You know, that vision you speak of, and that's one thing with Travion Henderson, that he has had to work on his vision from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year, heading into his final year in Columbus in the fall. His vision and knowing where to look, where to go, how to read things, and then how to react to what he sees, he's had to progress with that, which I think it's a normal thing for running backs. No matter how good you are in high school, you're going to have to work on your vision in college. Things are a whole lot faster. Players are as fast as you, maybe faster, and the coaches you're going up against are really, really smart. But Davison possesses a vision as a running back that, as you said, is good. But most guys, even at the high school level, their vision isn't as good as his.
Yeah, I don't know if that's all natural. Part of it, I assume, is related to the coaching staff at Mater Dei. For those who don't know, that's one of the best programs in the country. It's on the edge of Los Angeles. But, he can sift through the traffic really well. Some of the film I watched today was against St. John Bosco, the other program in the greater LA area that's their rival. That's a great program. And he's able to run against them too. So if you can do that, it's going to translate well to the next level. But I guess it's just natural feel first and foremost. And that's a God-given trait. So hopefully for him, he keeps it. But I think that's why his offer list is also very extensive.
Yes, the offer list is extensive. And Brian says it all the time. Yeah, you can whittle these things down. Where your offers, that's how you want to see how good guys are, but also where you're taking visits and where's your action going. I think the Buckeyes, by a lot of people, are the front runner to get a commitment from this young man, but I'm going to be curious to see what schools he visits over the next few weeks and months, because that says a lot about you as a player as far as, well, you say one thing, but if your actions don't back up your words, then your words really don't mean much at all. But for him, though, with it being Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, and Oregon, yeah, Ohio State might have the upper hand by some people that cover recruiting to get a commitment from Davidson. But the other 3 schools are not going to stop pursuing him, and it's going to be a tough battle to get a commitment from this running back.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where you have a great player. Everybody knew about him early. I met him last year in Florida when he was at an event, and he had a long list then. If I had to guess back then, I'd have said Alabama, but Saban was still there. Now it's a little more wide open. Oregon's trending more as program after they had a good year, etc. I would not bet on any one thing. And no matter where he commits, you're right. The other schools are still going to make phone calls and text messages. So if you're going to recruit 4 and 5 star running backs, you got to deal with the part of kind of like Jeremiah last year.
Yeah.
It's going to be through signing day. There is no fun with this anymore.
Mm-mm.
Kids don't shut it down. They don't. So Davison, especially being at Mater Dei where coaches come through there constantly, they probably have a recruiting coordinator, I would assume. They just about have to at that school. That guy's busy. So I think that his recruitment may stretch out a little while.
Is it normal for high school kids that live in California or even on the western portion of the country to go to Florida for events?
Oh, yeah. It's the epicenter. That's why so many of us live in Florida and Georgia, because the 7-on tournaments, the Under Armour events, etc. There's so many ways to do it. Like there was a kid at the Miami Under Armour that's a quarterback in California that's been offered by pretty much everybody, Ohio State included. Kids go down there to compete against the great talent in the state of Florida, and the weather makes it a little easier to have events in January, February, etc.
I know Alabama's the name, and it's always going to be Alabama, but I really wonder how Kalen DeBoer is going to do navigating recruitments when you're trying to get guys like this to come to your school, when you're a new guy replacing a legend, the best, I will say it, the best coach in college football in my lifetime. It has been Nick Saban, or was Nick Saban. So I don't know exactly what to expect from Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Yeah, I think he's a really good coach. I don't think he would have gotten that job if he was not a really good coach. But you're navigating stuff in an area for the very first time where you're following not only Nick Saban, but the fans are going to demand things of you that the Washington fans never did. I'm going to be interested to see how Ohio State and maybe even Alabama navigate this, where Ryan Day has experience where he currently is. DeBoer is a newcomer, but he brings something different that I think attracts players like Davidson to the school. So that Alabama-Ohio State battle here is what I'm going to be watching very closely.
It would have to be attractive, wouldn't it, to
Yeah.
play in DeBoer's system? I mean, it's incredible what they did with a bunch of 3 and 4 star guys. They didn't get 5-star recruits, but they just had one of the highest number of players go to the NFL draft and actually get selected.
Yeah.
They can coach.
Yeah.
They can coach. But now he's recruiting to a culture. I mean, anybody who follows politics will know that Seattle and Tuscaloosa are as far apart politically as you can get.
Yeah.
They are. And he took the job, but recruiting, and I live in the state of Alabama now, like recruiting in this state is about who you know. I have a lot of pause with that. So I think he will rely on, like, I'm sure he recruited that school very hard. Bosco, Mater Dei, Margarita Catholic, all those programs through there. And he's going to have to rely on it a little bit more than what Alabama fan base would like probably to start. And he needs to win some of these because he's already had a relationship with the coaching staff there. Like, I highly doubt he knows a lot of the coaches in Atlanta, in Birmingham, and Mobile, etc. So that's going to be important for him, but it's different to sell Alabama, Florida, or something like that to a California kid if you're from the West Coast. He doesn't know it that well. I'm curious how that works too, and I don't have an answer because this is a very unique situation. When was the last time Alabama hired a coach from the West Coast?
Right.
I don't think they ever have.
No.
So there's no precedent. This could be a case where he ends up going there. Don't get me wrong, but I would not bet on it.
There is a kid from the state of Alabama that is currently committed to a school in the state of Alabama, but just got an offer from Ohio State. I'll tell you who it is next. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. It's NBA playoff time. the Cleveland Cavaliers are still in this thing, and maybe you're trying to find time to go to a Cavaliers game or go to an NBA playoff game just in general somewhere around the country. Maybe you want to wait till the last minute just because you're not sure if a team's going to be playing in the next game, the series is going to be extended. Well, keep Gametime in mind with their last minute best options that they have available for you to get tickets. Head over to Gametime. You'll save money and get tickets at the last minute. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This episode is brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. Everything you need for in-home and even backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus carries the best pool tables from Brunswick, Alhassan, Canada, Billiards, and more. And the grills, whether you like charcoal or gas or wood-fired, Billiards Plus has a perfect setup for all grillers. They're family-owned and operated, and when you talk to the staff at Billiards Plus, you know you're talking to an expert who won't steer you wrong. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus. Visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Malik Autry is one of those kids, when you look at him, you're like, oh, you're a big human being. 6'5 and a half, 6'6, standing at 320 pounds. He's big. He moves like a guy that's not 320 pounds. Was recently in Columbus on an unofficial visit. Got an offer on that unofficial visit. Is scheduled to take an official visit to Ohio State on June 21st. So checking things off the box. The unofficial, great. You're taking some time out of your day. Cool. Official visit schedule. Cool. On the school's dime. But also getting that offer, that's huge. And this is all happening while he's still committed to Auburn, a school that you're covering right now. So all of this is happening in Ohio State. It's like, we know where you're committed. We don't care. We still want you.
Yeah, he took the visit and he liked it. Oregon, Florida, Auburn, Ohio State. He goes to Opelika High School, which I'll actually be at today to watch their scrimmage. It's 10 minutes from Auburn's campus.
Okay.
So it's a suburb of Auburn, and he's just grown up rooting for Auburn. You're like part of the community. The two communities, you don't know which one you're in. They kind of run together.
Yeah.
But he's continued to take a bunch of visits. So I don't know what the situation is there. I'm going to try to find out a little more, but he's visited Auburn probably 25 times, over the last couple of years. But other schools keep coming after him. And like you mentioned, the frame, you can't teach it. I've seen him play live at Under Armour and stuff. Guys that are smaller than him, he's still quicker. He's got incredible power, and you just can't teach the frame. If you're going to win national championships, Ohio State or anybody else, you have to recruit high-level defensive linemen out of the prep ranks. It's one thing to occasionally get somebody like Miami just got Simeon Barrow from Michigan State. That's great. That's not the easiest path. Mm-hmm. You still got to find a way to get the high school kids, and there's very, very few of them. I think that's why Ohio State threw their hat in the ring. It's like, well, the worst they can do is say no.
Right.
And again, getting kids out of this state is not easy, but they did get Naeem offered. So, yeah. I mean, that's one. Maybe they're trying to use him to lure Autry too. I don't know. But like I said, I'll find out more when I see him at the scrimmage. But I get why they're going after him. He could play nose guard or D tackle and be just fine.
Brian, so you've mentioned it before, how tough it is to get guys out of Alabama, out of that state. And you mentioned something here that kind of put a thought into my head. They got offered. That's great. And I think he's one of those guys. Like, I don't really say this Jeremiah Smith's going to come in and immediately start, and he's going to make an instant impact at Ohio State. If Autry wasn't coming in and there are these guys above him at corner that are like potentially going to be one-year starters and then going to the NFL, I think Autry could come in, and assuming his game immediately translates, I think he could immediately get on the field for Ohio State. He's that good. Not saying Autry's that good, but what would it mean for Ohio State if they got 3 players from Ohio State in this class offered? Let's just say hypothetically they get Autry to decommit and flip to Ohio State, and they got one more kid. What would it mean for the Buckeyes to go in after Saban retires and to steal 3 kids from that state?
Well, it would be partially to what you just mentioned. That wouldn't happen under Saban. It just wouldn't. Would Autry be committed to Ohio State right now? Very unlikely. I think that you could say it's pretty much almost a lock. When Saban wanted an in-state DB, he pretty much got it. Unless the kid was just died in with, Georgia or Auburn because his family rooted for him or something. You weren't going to get those kids. And D linemen, they got guys on third team that most schools would love to have starting.
Right.
So those are the other spots. It'd be unique, but it's still not the same as when Saban was, because he just didn't lose those guys.
Mm-hmm.
LSU or Georgia got a kid once in a while. That's about it. So that you could make an argument the worst state to try to go in and steal a player from is the state of Alabama. But it is lessened without Nick, and we're still in the new phase with Kalen DeBoer in Tuscaloosa. Don't know how that's going to go, but there are a lot of kids in this state that are at least taking more visits out of state now. Penn State got a running back commitment. Zion Grady from the southern part of the state's visiting Miami, etc. It's pretty random. So maybe this is the year. If you're going to do it, it's now. Ohio State needs to strike while the iron's hot. And by the way, Alford is definitely the best player in the state of Alabama this year.
Oh, dude, he's unreal.
He's really, really good. He's probably the best corner in the country.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I watch his film, and I will get back to Autry here in a second, guys. But I watch his film, and I'm like, I've watched football my entire life. I watched a lot of high school football my entire life. He's doing things that not even guys at the high school level that I see and guys not even in college can do it. I'm like, how do you make it look so easy? How do you do it so consistently? And it's the effortlessness at times and the ease while he's doing it and the consistency. It's like, oh, something clicked in your brain. In this, now God-given ability, he's blessed with his talent, so get me wrong. But also, he's just so good, and he works. You can tell that he knows and he works at his craft all the time, and that when he's on the field, it's like clockwork, baby. It's just going and clicking so well, he doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah, Alford has an incredible back pedal. He comes out of it really well. He's 6'1", and he's got those long arms. He's as smooth a DB as you're gonna see. I'm gonna see him next week at a spring game. But, I really don't need to see him. I'm there to see a couple other kids at his school more than him. I already, I don't get the film just to have it. But, I already know what he is. He's an elite player. He's a top 10 national player. That's the safe way to put Alford.
Brian, I went back and looked at Autry's official visit list over the next few weeks. I found 4 schools. An official visit to UCF, USC, Florida, and Ohio State. The Buckeyes are the final in that group there. That's very interesting to me, because if you're a guy that believes that your actions speak louder than your words, cool. You're verbally committed to Auburn, and maybe he has an official to Auburn coming up at some point in time. This is just what I saw recently. The UCF one kind of shocks me and it makes my eyes pop out of my head, because I never associate UCF with the other 3 schools, but they must be doing something right to get the attention of Autry right now. With this foursome here, it wouldn't shock me if Autry decommitted and went somewhere else.
I think it'd be a little more surprising, because I know him, but kids in Alabama, they don't change their opinion very much, people in general.
Yeah.
I think he's enjoying the process a little bit more than he probably should, but, it's easy for me to say as an adult. UCF, by the way, that's Gus Malzahn's staff.
Yeah,
they just know Alabama.
Right. Good point.
They know all the coaches there. That's what that is. But I don't think they have much of a shot to get Malik Autry, to be honest. Ohio State would be more likely than UCF. But I mean, Autry keeps visiting all these schools. I understand. I just think he's enjoying the process.
Last thing here, he was on that unofficial visit in Columbus when he got that offer with 4 other players. One of them being David Sanders Jr. This would be a second trip in the springtime that he's taken on an unofficial to Ohio State, and I believe he has either working on scheduling an official visit or he's already scheduled. I'm not sure if it's been definite yet, but that's huge for a guy to take 2 trips in a couple months, basically, to Columbus, and then thinking about making a 3rd trip potentially during the official visit window that's going to be opening up really, really soon. The Buckeyes might be in a good position, Brian, to get a commitment or schedule an official visit with David Sanders Jr., the best left tackle in the class by some people.
Sanders is a great player. He's coming off some shoulder surgery, but athletically, he's exactly what you're looking for. He runs like a tight end, and he's pushing 300 pounds. Yeah, that's as good as it gets. I don't know where he's going to go. I've heard Clemson and Georgia were up there, but that was before the Ohio State visit. I haven't heard anything recently. That's an elite player. If you want to make your D linemen better, put guys like that out there in practice at Columbus.
That is true. Coming up next, we're going to talk about a player that Brian recently got to see with his own 2 eyes, a tight end that used to play high school football with Air Noland. We'll talk about that guy next. This episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there is just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get, like unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist to their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Anytime, Brian, I hear about a guy that used to catch balls from a guy who's currently at Ohio State, I'm inclined to pay attention to their film and see exactly what kind of player they are. Xavier Tiller, a 2026 prospect, not 2025. You got to see him recently, and he had some gloves on that had Ohio State on the palm, so that got my interest as well. 6'4", about 205, and he plays like a tight end that I think is more new age that Ryan Day and especially Chip Kelly will want in their offense.
He's actually up to about 220.
Ooh.
And yeah, he's much bigger than the film that you saw. And he was the guy that probably his 7-on-7 team didn't do very well at the OT7, but it wasn't his fault. They just didn't get him the ball. He's as athletic as it gets for a flex tight end. He would be a heck of an edge rusher too. Man, is he long. And nice kid, pretty quiet, easy going, lives on the south edge of Atlanta in Fairburn, goes to Langston Hughes, same place that Air Noland did. He's got offers from everybody. Georgia has him, regardless of position on offense, number 2 on their board.
Wow.
Yeah, so that puts things in perspective. Georgia probably uses tight ends better than anybody right now. I think it's kind of hard to argue. Yes. No matter who was in the lineup, even when Bowers was out, more Lucky or somebody else was catching passes too. So that's attractive to him. It'll be hard to get him away from there. But I said, hey, can I just get a photo of you? And I was shooting the breeze with him, and he just put up the photo opportunity for me to get him with the gloves. So I just took the photo. Easygoing kid. He will have 50 offers, and he's the kind of guy that can change the game because matchup nightmare, man. There's no safety that's going to be able to handle him physically, and linebackers will struggle to run with him. So Tiller's a special player.
In corners, they're too small.
Yeah,
so you're taking out all 3 positions there with him in the passing game, and I was just amazed at how smooth. I say smooth, and I don't want to say smooth in like he runs like a wide receiver. Don't get me wrong, but for a guy his size, he ran smoother than I would have expected him to. So I'll put it that way there. I think this is what Ohio State might be trending towards as far as tight ends, guys that might be flex tight ends in high school that you got to pull them in line in college, but also you still want to flex them out a little bit more in college than you used to. Cade Stover was not your traditional flex tight end, but he could flex out and do some good things in the passing game. He'll hit you for that seam route numerous times, and he'll hit you at the right moment. Well, Hughes can not only get you, not Hughes, Tiller can not only get you for that seam route, he can get you over the middle. He can get you. There's just so many different ways in the pass game he can kill you. How is his blocking, though? Because I have not seen him live like you have. I don't know if you've seen him in on a Friday night game or whatever. No. But that's one thing I'm curious about. Any high school tight end, the blocking, because you have to do it well to play at Ohio State.
Yeah, his high school throws it around all over the place because they had air. He didn't have to block that much. They threw him the football. I'm sure he can do it some, but that's a trait that you can coach a kid on. You can't teach him to be 6'4.5", 220 and agile. It's the piece of clay that the schools want. They'll figure out how to mold it, or at least they think they do. There's not a college coach I've ever mentioned a conversation with that didn't think they couldn't fix a kid. That's just nature of coaches. It's not always right, but that's the nature of coaches. And this kid doesn't have much to fix anyway. It's just he's still learning. He's got 2 years of high school left. Let's keep that in mind. He might be a top 25 player when he comes out because he's so athletic at his length. The target range is just massive. Air would throw it up to him in contested situations. He made catches like Jamie French. So, it's a rare commodity to get players like that. And for whatever reason, it's the one spot Ohio State really hasn't recruited at a high level consistently, at least. They've gotten some. It's tight end, like the flex guys. I don't know why that is, but this would be a trend in that direction for sure if they got Tiller.
It would take a lot for Aaron Noland and Tiller to play on the field together if he commits to Ohio State and if Aaron Noland ends up staying at Ohio State. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces with the new world of college football. But if these two guys were able to play together down the road, I'm sure it would be fun for Tiller to play with his high school quarterback at Ohio State in the shoe in a place that they could just kind of rekindle that chemistry they had in high school together. We saw it with McCord and Harrison Jr. last year, high school teammates playing for Ohio State. I think it would be fun, Brian, to see Noland and Tiller play pitch and catch together down the road.
They'd have a chemistry already.
Yeah.
They certainly did last year. I remember thinking, boy, they lost a lot of kids. And then I went and watched Ayers' film, and I'm like, who is that guy? I didn't know that he was a young player like that. And then I saw him again when I just watched Tiller's film. I'm like, okay, that's who that guy was.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. But, yeah, he's a rare guy, and I'm sure that Aaron Noland has spoken to him about playing for the Buckeyes. That's not any news flash, so we'll see if it happens, but there's a long way to go with Ayers' development too.
Last thing here, with you being at OT7, didn't even think about even throwing this in here. Were there any guys that we've talked about on the show that were there at OT7 that kind of impressed you?
There were a ton, but as far as Ohio State, this is more Southern kids and a few guys that were out west. There's a quarterback named Luke Fahey that Ohio State fans should be familiar with. He's starting to blow up. He plays for California Power. He's an Ohio State fan. He'll probably end up with an Ohio State offer. His trainer is buddies with Chip Kelly, so very accurate. Plays at Mission Viejo. That's a great kid too. That's a kid that I think could play for any school in the country, and he'll end up in the top 10 rankings in the class of 26 at the quarterback position.
Okay. Brian, appreciate you coming on the show once again. It's always fun getting the insight on recruits and some stories and things like that and pictures that you shared over the weekend. You can follow Brian on X at FBScout_Florida. You can follow me on the same platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. We're out of here, Buckeye fans, on a Friday. We'll talk on Monday.